Welcome into another edition of Friar Territory, presented by Fox One. I'm Kyle Glaser alongside Mike Cameron. Big breaking news this morning. Padres manager Mike Shildt announced he was retiring 9 days after the Padres were eliminated by the Chicago Cubs. He informed the team on Saturday. The new news became public today. Mike, just your initial reaction to the surprise announcement that Mike Shildt is retiring.
Yeah, very shocking just considering how he has kind of grasped this organization and took it and brought some accountability to the team. Also with a culture that he likes and that he's had some experience with. So hopefully everything is good health wise, in that sense. But you just never know, man. We not much details about it. Obviously, it's kind of breaking news and hopefully he's just healthy and he's ready to move on to do something different from a mental perspective. But definitely shocking, man. Shildt has been very solid and very trustworthy amongst the players over there. So we'll see where this goes, Kyle.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike Shildt led the Padres to back-to-back 90-win seasons in his only 2 seasons as manager, 93 wins in 2024, 90 wins in 2025, back-to-back playoff appearances. And one of the more impressive things about Mike Shildt, I think, needs to be appreciated. He was a manager for 5 full seasons, and in each of those years, he led his team to the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, probably, I guess in a short sense of um, his seasons in San Diego, it's been very, very beneficial and very historic as the team has been considered a perennial playoff contender on a yearly basis here. And it's kind of shocking to see what's going on. Consider before Shildt, there was so much shuffling around trying to get the right people in place, and obviously Shildt took the reins, man, and made this team's very respectful throughout the league. You just can't walk into San Diego anymore and think you're going to grab you 3 wins or two or three wins in a series and get up out of there. These guys have definitely been pushing the bill, and AJ Prilla has definitely helped push that in a sense of wanting to win, and they've shown that even in the trials and tribulations of maybe payroll may be a little crazy sometimes or whatever it may be, but they've done a good job of keeping some top tier players, man, and making San Diego really reputable and responsible, amongst the fans. So and it shows. I mean, you see the ballpark pretty much on a nightly basis that people show up to go see these players play. So it's definitely something very interesting, man, to this goal. We never know these situations when they take place. You just have to, sit back and see what undresses itself in this situation.
Yeah, certainly more will come out in the coming days. One of the things Mike Schultz cited was the mental and physical toll managing has taken on him. And Mike, you can speak to this. You've seen it from a player's perspective, you've worked for clubs. Let everyone know. I mean, can you put it in perspective for maybe someone who, isn't really inside of a clubhouse very often or doesn't really see the day to day, just how mentally and physically taxing being a manager over the course of a 162 game season can be?
Yeah, because one thing, Kyle, you're just not managing 26 players.
Yeah.
You're definitely managing at least 50 players throughout the course of the year,
Yeah.
and then you're trying to learn the face name basis. That's just the players in itself. And then you have these different departments. You got the analytic department. You have the media department. You have the front office. You also have the staff. You got different people that you got to be interacting in with every single day, and then the media. I mean, and obviously it's probably a little easier in San Diego than other places, but when you become a perennial playoff contender, that draws a little more. It draws a little more attention in itself, and so that's just one thing. Then you got to connect with the players. You got to be connecting from a personal standpoint on different every different player. So you're managing a lot, and you're trying to just live yourself. and your whole life is connected to this. Obviously, it is one of the premier jobs to have in sports, and that's one of 30 guys that manage a baseball team. And it's just taxing in a sense because sometimes you may have to go down to win a ball and talk to a player. You may have to go, see some of your stars. You may show up at the house, and I'm sure guys do it different. But the ones that really reach out and connect with their players, man, they are different, and there's a different respect when you go to somebody's home and you show up in the off season. You may miss your Thanksgiving because you're trying to recruit another guy. So it's just it's a tough task on a daily basis. I mean, I see it all the time. The toll is that it takes on these guys, um, the physical demand on their body, and it's hard. You're just dealing with so much on every end of the day. I mean, you're aging yourself in dog years when you start to be manager.
Football is back, and so is your shot at big wins. With DraftKings Pick 6, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL, your game day instincts can score you real money. Here's the play. Just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and unlock the upside every snap brings. The better your calls, the bigger your payout. And here's the kickoff bonus. New DraftKings customers get $50 in bonus picks with just a $5 entry on your first pick set. This season, play your player instincts. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL. Play just $5, get $50 in Pick 6 bonus picks. Make the call, ride the upside, in partnership with DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 bonus picks that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Mike, you raise a good point again, and I think it's really important for people to understand managing is a lot more than just, hey, who's coming out of the bullpen, making the lineup every day. That's the easy stuff. It's all the other things, like you said, the media, the front office, working with coaches, trainers, working on all different hitting and pitching plans for the day, being with all the different players coming and going from AAA on up. You're talking to the minor league guys. I mean, there's so much that is involved in managing. And it's only getting more and more too. What managers' responsibilities were 20 years ago, 30 years ago are very different than today. So I think it's a situation where on the one hand, yes, it is very, very surprising that Mike Shildt retired in a lot of ways. At the same time, in this day and age, whenever I hear a manager chooses to retire, it doesn't always shock me just because it is such a grind. And again, it's not just 162, it's during off seasons, during spring training. If you go to the postseason, it never lets up.
Yeah, there's so much, man. I mean, there's so much involved. The day-to-day operation, and then you add to the point of when you have a potential playoff caliber team that can vie for a championship. I think it makes it even harder. But the manager always gives a sense of yes, that's the end goal that we're chasing, but there's a process that leads up to those things. He's just trying to keep his players process oriented and trying to get the results they need. And ultimately, we know the results determine who you are, given the type of team that you have. And when you have the type of talent that Shildt has been blessed with in a sense, but short on some other parts, it makes it very challenging when certain aspects don't be achieved at that particular time. But we all know that trying to win any type of championship, there's a process for it. There's no one that shows up and it just happens for them. I don't care what team you got, who you got, or how much you spend on your payroll. There's a process, and you need those things because the culture that you have, that you're trying to design, you want it to allow players to fit in and weed players out if they don't fit in. And so it's big in that sense. And we know there's a lot of money that is involved in this thing when we're talking about running a major league team. So you got to be very good at understanding egos and these, these top dog guys, man, and how to navigate with them on a daily basis to get the best out of them on a daily basis.
Mike, watching from afar, How would you assess Mike Shilt's performance as a manager, both with the Padres and just over the course of his career with the Cardinals? What were your overall thoughts on his performance?
Oh man, I think he's one of the best. For a guy, especially, I don't even understand how St. Louis let him go. I mean, for one thing,
Yeah.
for that's weird in itself. And
Yeah.
obviously, you've seen the direction they've been going since then. There's a lot of chatter about different things that are going on. That never happened when Shilty was there. We never had that. We haven't heard much of that coming out of San Diego also. So he's righted the ship in a way where he has, two of the biggest stars in the game, and some of the biggest pitchers. He's had to manage the Soto situation. So, like there's just a lot, a lot of the players that maybe he liked that were on the verge of getting ready to come here, and they had to be moved on for a situation for what's taking place in the big leagues. But the manager is very involved and very engaged in all of the different players that come in. He don't probably get as close to all of the players, but there's a select few, man, that show up in spring training on a yearly basis that are knocking on the door that he have to probably talk to and keep sending them back and keeping their mind right to go out and try to get ready to be able to help the team come about over the course of a season. And then, you just got to deal with some of the cards you're dealt with injury wise, the starting pitching, and you still got to try to right these ships and making sure the team understands that we're still going forward. We're still trying to put this together. And Shilty has done a great job in San Diego, man. Look, one of the only managers that have led his team to back-to-back 90-win seasons.
The only one. The only one. The fight that he's brought with this club to now being some such of a thorn in the side of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Probably not the top battle for the Dodgers, as they always say, but he's definitely got the organization from a standard and a culture base on the right direction, and it's going to be very interesting to see who they bring in to take his place, given you have some of the once again top veteran players in there that is going to have to garner some respect and earn the respect of the manager in that sense, and the manager respecting his top tier players. Yeah, and we'll get into what the right candidate to replace Mike Shildt will be in a second, but I want to circle back on Mike Shildt and his performance. Look, every fan base hates their own manager. It's universal, all 30 teams, especially the portion of the fan base that's vocal on social media, like universal.
Yeah.
Having had the opportunity to, be a national writer for nearly a decade, cover all 30 teams, multiple managers for every team, seeing all the different dynamics, Mike Shildt really was someone who was in the upper tier of managers. I'm not going to say he was the best, but he was in the upper tier.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I always really appreciated about Mike Shildt was his attention to the little things, to the details. He understood that so many games are won and lost because you boot a ground ball at the wrong time. Your guy doesn't get the right secondary lead. Instead of scoring the winning run at the plate, he's thrown out at the plate. Hitting your cutoff man makes a difference between giving up those extra bases, giving away extra outs, anywhere on the diamond. I think there's just so many little things that in today's analytics age get overlooked, and the best teams are the ones that blend them. And what I always appreciate about Mike Shildt is you knew his teams, both in St. Louis and San Diego, were always going to play aggressive, clean, sound baseball. And that is not something that is easy to instill that culture, especially on teams with superstars, and say, we are going to play this brand of baseball every single day. Not every manager can effectively do that. I've seen plenty try and it hasn't worked. So I think Mike Shildt deserves a lot of credit for being able to instill that culture, get buy-in from players, both stars and young guys alike. And on the whole, look, yes, were there individual days where you didn't agree with a bullpen decision, or were there individual days you didn't agree with a certain lineup construction? Sure, that's going to happen for every manager. But you don't have the records he has if you're constantly fumbling those things. A big part of the reason why the Padres were so good in one-run games, and yes, a lot of that was the talent he had in the bullpen, but he also effectively deployed it. Again, you don't have 40 comeback wins if you're just butchering your bullpen usage the entire season. On the whole, he did a really, really good job. He was a very, very good manager. And look, not someone that will be super easily replaced. Again, I know there's plenty of people out there in Padres land who didn't like him because it's the nature of being a fan and not liking your own manager. But this is not something where it's just automatically going to be like, oh, we're going to get this massive upgrade. This was a very good manager, and who follows him will have, it'll be a tough act to follow in a lot of ways.
This is for everyone listening right now. What are you wearing right now? And why isn't it MeUndies? Kratz, it is time for everyone to upgrade and get that super soft micro modal glory. So good that you don't want to take it off.
The reason I'm stone facing you is because that's how soft they are. It's ridiculous. Like I don't even understand what kind of material it is. It's got to be something space age for your butt.
Signature, super soft, micro modal fabric, breathable, stretchy, unbelievably cozy. And now you can even get glow in the dark, part of the Halloween line. Right now, as a listener of FT, you can get cozy and spooky for less with deals up to 50% off at MeUndies.com/foul. Enter promo code FOUL. That's MeUndies.com/foul. Promo code FOUL for up to 50% off MeUndies. Comfort that's made for fall.
Oh yeah. One of the biggest things, just listening to Shildt when he does his interviews, kind of tells you a whole lot about, what he is and what he means to the team. And you also find out about your managers as to how the players talk about the manager, and they're all in correspondence as to they're sticking up for one another. And so that kind of tells you a lot about that. You can ask some of the guys that probably left or still in St. Louis that's left, they probably will say those same things. You don't really hear that about all managers. Everyone's not going to agree with what the manager's doing or their situation personally or well with the team, but for the most part, they're all in chorus they're all together when they speak about the guy from different people alike. So kudos to him as to what he's done, man, and what he's been able to establish. And Shilt's one of those guys. He's a lifer, man. So he is definitely going to be detail oriented in the sense of from the rise of where he's came from, and so in those same fundamentals, he was able to bring them to a big league roster or organization. And that's how you stand on your culture, and guys kind of get in line with that. And if you have a problem with that, then we can do that. One of the biggest things I think being able to manage in today's game is managing these superstar personalities, because they all feel like they are a brand themselves. That is how it is. They're just the integration of technology and everything that's going on. But just watching Manny show up and play every day, and watching Tatis, show up and play every day, when these guys, even sometimes when they don't want to go out, they still go out and perform. And part of that is because of the guy who is running the ship. And, other than the fact that they like to play baseball, but for the most part, you have those standards. And when your stars are, like I've seen Manny change a lot, maybe it's just maturity in itself, but also in the helps of maybe Shildt has had some conversations on the back end, man, to allow it makes him a much better manager, because he can now manage different things than having to worry about his stars and how they feel or whatever it is. He can allow his players to disperse this information now.
Mike, in terms of the type of manager the Padres should replace him with, and names will come out later, but right now I want to focus on the type of manager. One of the biggest sources of Mike Shildt's credibility was he had a lifetime in the game. He had managed all throughout the minors. He had been a coach at the big league level. He managed the big league level. There was no situation he hadn't seen, no kind of player he hadn't dealt with. There was a lifetime of experience here that you just can't replicate. And I think it's very important for the Padres, with whoever they choose to replace Mike Shildt with, has a similar base, a similar foundation of long-standing credibility, that the players will immediately see and understand and respect. You have some very, very big personalities in that clubhouse. Manny Machado is one of them. Look, I was there. The Padres punted on Andy Green in 2019, and Manny Machado was a big part of that. He completely shut down at the end of the year. There was absolutely a lot of player resistance to Jace Tingler by the end. And again, Manny was a part of that. There are very, very strong personalities in that clubhouse where you have to get the respect of those veteran players. Bob Melvin did it for a bit. There were times where they didn't listen to him as much as they should have, but he at least had the credibility, and that was a big reason why he was able to be successful. Again, back-to-back winning seasons with the Padres. It's not something that happens very often, even though 2023 was a disappointment. And Mike Shildt as well. Again, there was a level of focus and effort from some of these guys that just frankly had not always been there. So I think for the Padres, hiring another guy who has previous major league experience, who has a lifetime in the game, who understands how to communicate with different players, that's the type of manager they need. Again, hiring someone out of off a TV would not be the right move. Hiring someone who, has some history as a farm director or a third base coach and trying to make him a big league manager for the first time, I don't think that's the right move for this team. What do you think would be the best type of manager for the Padres to hire here?
Well, one of the first things, if I'm AJ Prilla, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to consult a little bit with Manny Machado. I'm going to consult with Tatis. Maybe those are the two premium guys as your positional players. You're going to need to get a sense of what's needed at this particular time to allow these guys to continue to go out and be who they are. I know Manny's probably is in the midst of getting to the back end of his career more so than the front end. And so it's going to be important to have that and understand, those relationships amongst those type of players when you bring a guy in, as you stated before, the Tingler situation and I think Green situation, that's just not going to work. They're gonna blow that over, man. They're gonna respect it for a little bit because it's the head, but they're gonna blow it over because they think most of the time you're trying to force your action upon us and establish yourself, opposed to a guy that can walk in and is like, okay, we're gonna be all right, man. We're gonna be all right. Okay, let's see how this goes. A guy who has experience and who's been around the game for a long time, who has experienced many different aspects. He's not going to come in with the rah-rah, you do look at me, I'm, the new guy, this, that, and the other. You're trying to connect this managerial situation with the players, but a mutual respect as to what is going on to transpire this, and understand that you're still in a window of a potential playoff caliber team on a yearly basis too. So, there is going to be some of that kind of pressure going into this thing. So, I think they're going to be looking for a guy that's definitely has some experience in this now, considering what they've seen out of Shildt for the last 5 years.
Again, to me, the prerequisites would be has to have previous big league managerial experience, preferably also has a lot of experience in a lot of different roles. Again, having been a bench coach, having been a third base coach, having managed in the minors, all that's important. But having that big league managerial experience, which gives you instant credibility, that's just so huge with this Padres clubhouse. I want to be clear, not every team would require that. Different teams, different personalities, different dynamics require different types of managers at different times. But just knowing the makeup of this clubhouse, knowing what has happened and what the stark differences have been in this clubhouse when the Padres have brought in managers with credibility and experience as a big league manager versus ones who were doing it for the first time, it's been a world of difference. So I think it's really, really important the Padres replace Mike Shildt with, again, someone like a Mike Shildt who has managed superstars, has a lifetime in the game, and overall will bring that instant credibility the players will respect. We'll see what they choose to do. But nonetheless, regardless of what happens in the future, I think it's important to appreciate what Mike Shildt accomplished as the manager of the Padres over these last 2 years. And whatever he chooses to do next, he deserves a long and happy retirement.
Most definitely. Salute to Shildt, man. He always showed up. Always showed up, man. And he's always been courteous to me. So
Yeah.
And that's just a respect of just the long tenure of being amongst each other and seeing each other over the course of time. And that goes a long way, man. You know, when you have that type of response or action amongst people. So I'm happy for him, man, but it definitely AJ has been probably in a little bit of a crunch, and obviously AJ has some experience in this, and he has a very large scouting background, so he understands the groundwork that it needs to be put in place. A guy that can come in and like lead this team, considering you have some of the biggest star power in the game on your team.
And we will see what the Padres choose to do. We will have full coverage of it throughout the offseason here on Friar Territory. Once again, thank you for watching and listening. Go ahead and give us a review. Apple, Spotify, YouTube, whatever platform you're watching and listening on. We would love to hear from you. For Mike Cameron, I'm Kyle Glaser. We'll see you later this week.